everybody, welcome back to RPG Imaginings. I have a package that I got yesterday from 1985 Games, and so I wanted to go ahead and unbox this because I have an idea that I know what this is. This is a Kickstarter that I backed several months ago, and it has finally arrived, and so let's bust into it. We got a new unboxing knife. Holy crap, right? Yeah, so visited my parents because thankfully both they and I are vaccinated, and we all have been for the last couple weeks. And so I hadn't seen them in over a year in person, so went to visit them, and my stepdad had this beast waiting for me, so he's very handy in that regard. So thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. And let's see what we got here from 1985 Games. Okay, get rid of the packing slip. Ooh, all sorts of gaming goodies. First we have this, I think this is the expansion from the Kickstarter. And then we have two new Dungeon Craft boxes. And for those of you who aren't aware, and you're gamers, Dungeon Craft is now, Volume 1 is now out on the market, and this is my box, and it's a little wobbly because I've cut out a lot of these pieces and have already used many of these pieces for some of my games. But this is basically, 2D terrain pieces. Dealing with terrain has always been problem for me as a gamer, and I've delved a little bit into the world of 3D terrain, and that's fine. I don't have a lot of time to build or paint or do stuff like that, so I was into the first Dungeon Craft Kickstarter immediately because I like this concept of we don't want what we're doing to represent what's happening in the game to be utter trash, but we don't need it to be perfect either, and I sort of feel like 2D terrain sort of scratches that itch for me. It gives me what I want out of the game, but it isn't something that is overburdening. And so I went ahead and backed their second Kickstarter at the level where I got both of the new expansions for Dungeon Craft, Siege and Castle game pieces. I thought that this would be very useful for a wide variety of games because, castles and keeps can be something that is helpful for science fiction. You go to a world that, happens to have, stone structures on it. It's obviously useful for fantasy. It's certainly useful for horror games like Call of Cthulhu because spooky castles are frequently something that happens. And then, of course, Cursed Lands. This is, of course, intended to be a connection, I think, with the Shadowfell and Strahd from Dungeons & Dragons. But this also works for a lot of different things. And then this is the expansion, the stretch goals that happen. You can see that you have like a Baba Yaga house here, which could be definitely very useful for Call of Cthulhu as well, and a couple of copies of some witches here, and we'll bust into this here shortly. But let's go ahead and bust out Castles and Keeps first. Siege and Castle game pieces. So got a Swiss Army knife here. I'm going to go ahead and use this for a simple task like just opening up the plastic, and so get that in there and slit it open, and here we go, Castles and Keeps. I don't remember exactly how much the Kickstarter was. I want to say that it was somewhere in the, $50 to $70 range, somewhere around there. Because let's see if it shows how much. So these are going to retail for $30. So yeah, it was probably around the $60, range. And so yeah, over 1,000 game pieces to besiege or defend a kingdom. How to use Dungeon Craft. So, give you some guidelines on where to cut and where not to cut. And then what's inside here is also all plastic wrap. Nicely put together. And we already have some ruined keep there. And so let's bust open the plastic within box and see what we got. That was pretty easy. We'll remove the plastic. And, I'm not going to show all of these. I think in my first Dungeon Craft video, I showed a majority of everything was there, and I'm not going to do this time because, we don't want the runtime to be too long, but just all sorts of castle-related stuff. So laborers, and pits. And these are double-sided, and they're laminated, to some extent, too, so you don't have to worry too much about spilling water on it. I wouldn't try to spill water on this, but... And then we have, sort of like Tusk Riders from RuneQuest almost. Actually, these would be really good stand-ins for Tusk Riders for RuneQuest. And then we have catapults and Beasts of Burden. I got this. More catapults and roofs of buildings within the castle, and more donkeys and fountains, and looks like a metal cap and arrow-stricken terrain and transportation and lots of archers and soldiers. And this is then part of the reason why I especially like this one is because this kind of stone bridge could be useful in virtually any role-playing game for any reason, And so there's quite a few stone bridge pieces in here, which I could imagine using in virtually any game. But you have plenty of orcs and things if you want to use this for D&D. And then some tinier ballistae and corners of bridges. You can really make a long bridge that needs to move a little bit. Partially broken roofs on fire. It's just really cool visual images that gives you an idea of what's going on, without overcrowding things or having to spend a lot on expensive 3D terrain. I really like how the terrain market has changed, and so here we have more of like a round keep or a guard tower of some sort. Steps. This is really nice because you could build anything that you wanted, on steps going up to the thing. We have dinner tables and carpets and bear rugs and bookshelves. Very useful for Call of Cthulhu. Mirrors. It's just jam-packed. And this is, of course, just, one side. A lot of the time, the opposite side of the tiles will be the destroyed versions, but sometimes the opposite sides of the tile are other things, but these are all designed so that if you cut one side, it's going to appropriately cut the other side. So it's just really a really well-designed product as well. And so, as it says, over 1,000 pieces. And, so dungeon craft, castles and keeps, lots of utility for the main game that I play, but honestly, useful for any game. And I try to cut these up a little bit when I need pieces, but when I don't need pieces, everything will fit nicely here in the box. And I already have shop space prepared on the bookshelf for it. And so now, Cursed Lands. This is where I'm really hoping that there's a lot of really great horror, content, spooky content, spoopy content for the younger in the audience. And I wouldn't have backed this if the preview images didn't include things that I knew that I could use, because, I don't really invest in something unless I know that there is practical use for it. And so some of this stuff, is you got to have interiors for those houses, but let's dive into it and see what sort of haunted elements or beastly elements are present here, because as a Call of Cthulhu gamer, that's what I'm really interested in. And so let's get it started. Hoo-ha! I'm on spring break right now, so I'm just doing some laundry, and I'm rewatching Knives Out right now while I am rollering cat beds so that they can be washed. Obviously, you can't wash them if there's a ton of hair on them, so we got to roller the cat beds before we wash them. And then I will be watching A Quiet Place after this while I'm doing that. But let's dive right in here. And we have... So this is, homes. But then over here we have what looks like mages and liches and vampires and ghosts. And these ghostly images could be stand-ins for all sorts of things in Call of Cthulhu. Of course, you got to be careful in Call of Cthulhu, though, as well, because a lot of the time you don't want to be describing and you want imagination to drive what's going on. But by the time I'm using terrain pieces, we're probably in a combat situation, and characters need to be able to know where everything is. Spiders, love it, because these spiders could be stand-ins for all sorts of mythos creatures. And I kind of like the idea of using spiders and then allowing descriptions to sort of drive the imagination with my players, like knowing that these spiders are a pale representation of what they're actually encountering, and some sort of fiery ghost. Yeah, and these are like decrepit homes or homes that are in disrepair. Hugely advantageous for Call of Cthulhu. I really like what I'm seeing here. You know, sort of like more gothic roofs. So those, it's nice that we have gothic roofs there, and then a home that's just fine, and then a home that's in disrepair. Pentagram. There we go. I should construct my player's Sanctum Sanctorum out of 2D terrain as well, or use these 2D terrain pieces in the 3D terrain model that I have of their Sanctum Sanctorum. Uh-oh, got a lot of death there, but it looks like we also have some ghouls of some sort, and these could stand in, you know, for ghouls in Call of Cthulhu as well. Wraith-like beings. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to turn it over to the side here, and then that'll be a lot easier. Oh, these are really interesting. Keep with sort of a normal-looking fire, and then if you want that fire to turn green, holes into the basements, creeping vines. Oh, this is really neat. A interior of a tree. Could definitely see myself using that. That's really cool. Mausoleums. I think that this is probably why I backed it, because, you know, Call of Cthulhu, there's all sorts of possibilities to have things in graveyards and keeps and everything, and this is exactly the sort of stuff that I'm looking for. Wooden fences, campsite of some sort, with wagons. I'm sure that this is supposed to represent the Vistani. Oh, that's really cool. So you have like outdoor tents, and then the interiors of those tents. I really love, from a design perspective, what they're doing with this, where they're making opposite sides of a tile having utilities. So it's like you enter there, and we flip it over, and it's the interior of it, and you could have other things in there. Ghoulish, brackish water or pits. Can anybody say Glocky and his servants? Fallen logs, fell brambles and briars, creepy woods. Ooh, look at that. More creepy woods. Cats. William Thaddeus Lavinius. To be fair, William should have clothes there. So, you're not a cat of the Dreamlands if you're not wearing a three-piece suit, in my opinion. Rocks. Statue with a hole underneath the statue. And then here we have more like sort of Strahd sort of stuff, thrones and pipe organs and elaborate coffins. And here we have a statue of what I assume is Strahd and soldiers around him. You know, we can't call it Strahd for copyright purposes, but they do a good job of getting what they need to do. We have some werewolves here. Cool. Crows. Evil trees. More beasties. All sorts of beasties. Tons of beasties. Lots of beasties. And so I think that these products at $30 retail are a really good value. And, you know, I'm sure that shipping combined, I paid about what retail would be. Maybe it saves you tax. You know, I'd have to look to see what I actually paid for this Kickstarter. But, you know, this is tons of gaming potential right here. And so, yeah, how to use Dungeon Craft. This is a fold-out. No, it's just a really thick paper here. Sort of feels like it should be a fold-out. But there we go. That's Cursed Lands. Definitely grateful that I got that. That's going to be hugely useful for Call of Cthulhu. And then it goes on the bookshelf, and we'll dive more into that a little later. Let's go ahead and cut open the bonus pack, which this, I think, was all stretch goals for the campaign. And so I think this might be a Kickstarter exclusive, or it might be something that may be part of a future product, or it could be something that they'll sell independently. Who knows? You know, I think part of the idea is that you can get exclusive things for Kickstarter that you can't get elsewhere. And so let's start with the Baba Yaga sides and see what's going on here. I am notoriously terrible at shrink wrap, as I'm sure many of you are. So, and we can put the knife away, and let's flip. Baba Yaga's hut, and tigers and war elephants. Oh, this is really interesting. Bears. And more tigers and... Oh, it's sort of like a circus theme. I gotcha. Cages and a circus tent. The interior. Rhinoceroses and leons. And some crazy chicken beast of some sort. And then all sorts of warriors. And blacksmith shop. That's super cool. And skeletal chariot of some sort with scarecrows. Oh, scarecrows that transform. That could be really useful for a Call of Cthulhu adventure that I know that features that. Livestock. Sheeps. Piggies. Cows. And different color on the back side. More of the elephants. Looks like war elephants. Stables. Very useful. Wow, some kind of altar that could be useful for cultist stuff, and an altar. And so, you know, as a bonus, that's a pretty nice add-on for a bonus. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. Check out Dungeon Craft 2, or, you know, like, I guess these are the next 2 releases in the Dungeon Craft series after just plain old Dungeon Craft. And, you know, maybe there's just one of these that catches your eyes and you want to go for it. But definitely wanted to share that with all of you. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.